This playthrough is rated M for mature.
Look at the sunset behind me in my own personal home and abode away from home. Greetings and salutations, viewers. Vauldemare back here with another episode of Mass Effect, and this episode is going to be a bonus episode. Yeah, no gameplay and stuff today because we're setting up to prepare for the finale, and best to get a lot of little things out of the way. For now, I'm doing some I'm doing some comment farming. I'm doing some quote farming from the characters, trying to get little tidbits, and I've been finding like little tidbits everywhere. I haven't found everything I wanted to, and there's a few that I don't need to show because it seems a bit obsessive. But today we're just going to do Codex reading. Yeah, I know, that's why exciting. That's why I'm doing this. It's just a bonus episode all on its own, and I'll label it as such, so for those who want to skip it and go on to the next episode the next day, they can. So finally we can go after the Codex entries after all this time. So there's quite a bit here after a while. And there's some I never even checked, like bringing down the sky and stuff like that. So let's start with all the secondary stuff. We'll read all that, and then when I do the primary stuff, it'll all be read by some of the sweet dulcet tones of our narrator, and you'll get a better experience out of it than me listening to it. So let's get the reading stuff out of the way first. We already did the personal histories from a previous thing, but let's see what happened when we did Bringing Down the Sky here. Human cultures remain linguistically divided. Some converse in Spanish, others in Mandarin, Arabic, Swahili, etc. Every alien race has their own equally broad panoply. Panoply? I guess it would be panoply of languages and dialects. Most individuals have Most individuals know. Wow, what's wrong with me today? Most individuals know only their mother tongue and rely on machine translation. Modern portable computers allow anyone with a few hundred credits of equipment to enjoy a seamless real-time transition of alien languages, courtesy of handheld PDAs, computers and clothing, or jewelry, or subdermal implants. Without fast and accurate translation, galactic trade and cultures cannot exist. Governments provide subsidized software, updating through the public extranet on the fly, often as users approach spaceport customs facilities. Even the Batarians, who isolated themselves from galactic society nearly 2 decades ago, take pains to provide up-to-date glossaries and linguistic rules, though most suspect this is only so they can continue exporting propaganda. It is still considered broad-minded and practical to be able to speak without machine aid. Children often take courses in alien language, and most races can speak the simplified artificial trade tongue with little difficulty. Kind of like Common in like D&D, or was it Galactic in Star Wars and stuff like that. Some species must rely on machine translations to interact with the rest of the galaxy. Hanar, for example, cannot reproduce the spoken languages of any humanoid species, and other races cannot reproduce Hanar bioluminescence without mechanical aid. Newly discovered or obscure races don't have machine translation available until the linguists have had time to study them. Man, I don't even know what to think about. We already have a ton, in our world, we already have a ton of languages. Trying to learn all these new languages from, man, that'd just be insane. I'd probably be one of those machine translation guys. I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna let the machine do that because my brain. Anyway, let's see what the Pinnacle Station Codex had. I don't know if I read all these, but we'll go and actually I think I read these before, or maybe the Pinnacle Station. Well, let's see. I think I read the Pinnacle Station one, but not the combat simulator. In absence of realistic terrain or equipment, military organizations will often make use of a combat simulator as a method of training soldiers for varied combat environments. Holographic projectors are used to create visual representations of opponents and obstacles. Kinetic barriers are then cast to prevent participants from passing through obstacles and terrain. Kinetic barriers are also used to simulate weapon damage and shockwaves. However, while most trainers argue the pain is the best teacher, all government-sponsored combat simulators are required to make use of extensive safety protocols to prevent any serious permanent damage to participants. And then the technology, prefabricated structures. When colonizing a planet, corporations will often make use of prefabricated or prefab structures to quickly and easily deploy a base of operations. These residential structures feature full living quarters and a large solarium from which residents may observe the planet's surface. It kind of reminds me of StarCraft for some reason when you build the buildings. Building complete. While most human colonies have the support of the Alliance military or some corporate-sponsored defense contractor, many civilian colonists choose to keep a small stock of armaments in their homes. These weapons have a last resort, but are often critical to staving off a pirate attack until support arrives. So, Oh yeah, I guess obviously you get the pinnacle, bringing it down the sky when you just do the mission. You'll get it just from playing it. Pinnacle Station, I think, is the same. When you complete all the missions, you get all that. Personal history, you get that automatically while you're playing. I guess I should have maybe looked up ahead of time, like when certain ones unlock while you play it, like what clicks on what or whatever. But anyway, all right, let's go over the alien council races finally after all this time. Because of their long lifespan, Asari tend to have a long view not common in other races. When they encounter a new species or situation, the Asari are more comfortable with the extended period of passive observation and study than immediate action. Kind of like in Star Trek, the Federation. They are unfazed that some of their investments or decisions may not pay off for decades or centuries. Matriarchs can seem to make incomprehensible decisions, but their insight is evident when their carefully laid plans come to fruition. In interstellar relations, this long view manifests an unspoken policy of centrism. The Asari instinctively seek to maintain stable balances of economic, political, and military power. Traditionally, the Asari spread their influence through cultural domination and intellectual superiority. They invite new species of advanced development to join the galactic community, knowing that their ideas and beliefs will inevitably influence the existing culture. Alright, military doctrine. I'm trying to remember where we get culture from. I know a lot of these can, if you didn't click on them through the game, if you talk to Liara over the course of the game, you'll learn most of these just from playing, just from talking to her for a lot of these anyway. I know there's one thing I won't have on there. I think it's like relationships or something like that. You have to talk to Liara and ask about relationships with other species to unlock it, which I don't think I did that on this file. I think I have another file that might have that, which I'll go over that later. But anyway, Asari military doctrine. The Asari military resembles a collection of tribal warrior bands with no national structure. Each community organizes its own units as the locals see fit, and elect a leader to command them. Units from populous cities are large and well equipped, while those from farm villages may be only a few women with small arms. There is no uniform. Everyone wears what they like. The Asari military is not an irregular militia, however. Those who serve are full-time professionals. The average Asari huntress is in the maiden stage of her life and has devoted 20 to 30 years to studying the martial arts. Asari chose to be warriors at a young age, and their education from that point is dedicated to sharpening the mind and body for that sole purpose. When they retire, they possess an alarming proficiency for killing. Huntresses fight individually or in pairs depending on the tactics preferred in their town. One-on-one, a huntress is practically unbeatable, possessing profound tactical insight, a hunter's eye, and a dancer's grace and alacrity. Biotics are common enough that some capability is a requirement to be trained as a huntress, like a biotic talent excludes a young Asari from military service. While fluid and mobile, Asari can't stand up in a firestorm the way a Krogan, Turian, or human could. Since their units are small and typically lack heavy armor and support weapons, they are almost incapable of fighting a conventional war, particularly one of a defensive nature. So Asari units typically undertake special operations missions. Like an army of ninja, they are adept at ambush, infiltration, and assassination, demoralizing and defeating their enemies through intense, focused guerrilla strikes. As a popular Turian saying puts it, the Asari are the finest warriors in the galaxy. Fortunately, there are not many of them. Asari religion. The pantheistic mainstream Asari religion is Siari, which translates roughly as all is one. We are one. The faithful agree on certain core truths. The universe is a conscious, every life within it is an aspect of the greater whole, and death is a merging of one's spiritual energy back into the greater universal consciousness. Siarists don't specifically believe in reincarnation. They believe that spiritual energy returned to the universal consciousness upon death will eventually be used to fill new mortal vessels. Siari became popular after the Asari left their homeworld and discovered their ability to meld with nearly any form of life. This ability is seen as proof that all life is fundamentally similar. Siari priests see their role as promoting unity between the disparate shards of the universe's awareness. Before the rise of the Siari pantheism, Asari religions were as diverse as their political opinions. The strongest survivor of these days in the monotheistic religion worshipping the goddess Althemi. Like the Asari, the goddess cycles through triple aspects of maiden, matron, and matriarch. Solarians, biology. Solarians are noted for their high-speed metabolism, which allows them to function on just 1 hour of sleep a day. Their minds and bodies work faster than most sapient races, making them seem relentless or hyperactive. The drawback of this active metabolism is a short lifespan of around 40 years. Man, I guess they get things done with that low lifespan. The Solarians are amphibian, haplodiploid egg layers. Unfertilized eggs produce males, and fertilized eggs produce females. Once a year, a Solarian female will lay a clutch of dozen eggs. Social rules prevent all but a fraction from being fertilized. As a result, 9% of the species is male. This kind of reminds me of frogs. Solarians have photographic memories and rarely forget a fact. They also possess a form of psychological imprinting, tending to refer to those they knew in their youth. Solarian hatching is a solemn ritual in which the clan Delatras, matriarch, isolates herself with the eggs. Young Solarians psychologically imprint on her and tend to defer to her wishes. During the hatchlings of daughters, the Delatrases of the mother and father's clans are present at the imprinting. This ensures the offspring have equal loyalty to both, ensuring the desired dynastic and political unity. Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to click off of that. Solarian government. The Solarian government is called the Solarian Union. It is a labyrinthine web of matrilineal bloodlines with political alliances formed through interbreeding. In many ways, the Solarian political network functions like the noble families of Earth's medieval Europe. Structurally, the government consists of fiefdoms, baronies, duchies, planets, and marches, colonization clusters. These are human nicknames. The original Solarian is unpronounceable. Each area is ruled by a single Dalatras, matriarchal head of the household, and represents an increasing amount of territorial prestige within the Solarian political web. Approaching 100 members, the first circle of a Solarian's clan comprises parents, siblings, uncles, aunts, and cousins. The next cycle includes second cousins, etc., and escalates to well over 1,000 members. The fourth or fifth circle of a clan numbers into the millions. Solarians' loyalty is greatest to their first circle and diminishes from there. Their photographic memories allow Solarians to recognize all their myriad relatives. And we've already read the League of One a while back when we actually got the things themselves. Solarians, military doctrine. In principle, the Solarians' military is similar to the Alliance, a small volunteer army that focuses on maneuver warfare. What differentiates the Solarians is not their equipment or doctrine, but their intelligence, service, and rules of engagement. The Solarians believe that a war should be won before it begins. Conventional wisdom holds that the Solarians know everything about everyone and is not far from the truth. In war, the unquestioned superiority of their intelligence services allows them to use their small military to maximum effectiveness. Well, before fighting breaks out, they possess complete knowledge of their enemy's positions, intentions, and timetable. In every war the Solarians have fought, they struck first and without warning. For the Solarians to know an enemy's plan to attack and to let it happen is folly. To announce their own plans to attack is insanity. They find the human moral concept of do not fire until fired upon and declare a war before prosecuting it incredibly naive. In defensive wars, they execute devastating preemptive strike hours before the enemy's own attacks. On the offense, they have never telegraphed their intentions with a declaration of war before attacking. Biotics are virtually unknown in the Solarian military. Those with such abilities are considered too valuable to be used as cannon fodder and are assigned to the intelligence services. While capable of defending themselves against most threats, the Solarians know that they are small fish in a universe filled with sharks. As a point of survival, they have cultivated strong alliances with the larger powers, particularly with the Turians. Though the relationship between the two species was rocky at first due to the Krogan uplift fiasco, the Solarians take pains to keep their relationship strong enough that anyone who might threaten them risks Turian intervention. Nice to have big friends on the outside, huh? Solarian Special Task Group. Solarian intelligence field agents are grouped into an organization called the Special Task Group. STG operators work in independent cells performing dangerous missions such as counterterrorism, infiltration, reconnaissance, assassination, and sabotage. The STG is a proactive organization, puncturing worrisome trends before they become movements. At any time, a dozen groups are operating covertly within the lawless terminus systems, sowing dissent among the various factions. Civilian analysts have also noted how troublesome hinge point individuals in terminus frequently meet unexpected deaths. STG operators are feared throughout the galaxy for their clear-eyed, remorseless practicality. They are willing to do whatever it takes to achieve their mission, even if it kills civilians or results in the team's own destruction. In many ways, they are akin to the Council Spectres. Recently, a number of STG cells have redeployed from Solarian Union. It is assumed they are in the Terminus and Attican Traverse, investigating reports of Geth activity beyond the Perseus Veil. And then we already read the Turian biology a while back, military doctrine, religion, and unification war a while back as well. So, alright, let's go over the extinct races. The Prothean Beacon. The beacon was a Prothean artifact unearthed on the Alliance colony of Eden Prime. Its resemblance to the Prothean databanks recovered on Mars provoked immediate interest from the Alliance and Citadel Council. It proved to be a solid-state data storage device, part of a galaxy-spanning comm network similar to the modern extranet. Intact Prothean paleo technology is rare. The beacon seemed to be promise another quantum leap of technology, akin to the discovery of the Mass Effect drive and relays. Unfortunately, the beacon also drew the attention of the rogue Spectre Saren, Arturius, and his synthetic allies, the Geth. A dawn raid by his flagship Sovereign resulted in hundreds of civilian casualties. The beacon was badly damaged. The motives behind the attack are still being investigated. During the recovery operation, the beacon fired a pulse of energy at the executive officer of the Alliance frigate Normandy. Lieutenant Commander Shepard survived and appears to have suffered no ill effects. Afterwards, the beacon fell inert. The mechanism appeared to be dead. Little background for how the world explains the events or whatever. Prothean Cipher. The Prothean beacon downloaded its knowledge into Lieutenant Commander Shepard on Eden Prime, causing confusing dreams and visions. While the imagery is becoming clearer with time, the meaning of the beacon communication remains elusive. It has been suggested that Prothean data recording is highly dependent on a certain point of view, what Carl Jung described as the collective unconsciousness. The cipher needed to comprehend the images implanted in Shepard's mind is the cultural knowledge of a Prothean. The archetypes, biological instincts, and common experience is universal to the race. Since the Protheans have been dead for millennia, it may be impossible to acquire this cipher, which we have in the game. Prothean data disks. Despite all the evidence confirming the existence of the Protheans, little is known about their culture and society. From time to time, dig sites will yield new clues, but after 50,000 years of decay, little value is unearthed. Recent research is focused on the discovery of Prothean data disks. On their own, they are frail and rarely found in one piece. Occasionally, however, an intact disk will be discovered within a console or reading device. To date, over 3 dozen disks have been recovered, and a few have been restored to the point where researchers can begin analyzing them. Though it may be some time before scientists discover a way to transfer the data off the disk, they are currently considering the most tangible leads for learning more about the Prothean culture. And finally, the Mars runes, which is what, story-wise, that's what humanity found on Mars, which allowed them to basically find out about the relays and then jump their technology 10,000% or something crazy like that, at least in this world anyway. After 20 years of manned research outposts and nearly a century of robotic exploration, the European Space Agency Lowell City became the first permanent settlement on Mars in 2103. Within a decade, the United States and China had founded permanent settlements as well. The South Polar region of Promethae Planum developed a Bermuda Triangle reputation. Satellites detected intermittent mass concentrations and magnetic field shifts. In 2148, prospectors working near Desato crater discovered an underground complex, a Prothean observation post. The odd phenomena were generated by the operation and discharge of a Mass Effect core, struggling to function despite 50 millennia of neglect. Earth was electrified by the news. Humanity was unequivocally not alone. While courts battled over who owned the runes, the international scientific community coordinated a massive effort to access, translate, and interpret the databanks recovered from the facility. The facility proved to be a biosciences observation post built when Homo sapiens were first evolving on Earth. While the motives of the Protheans are not certain, translated records indicate that the facility was in regular communication with automated observation platforms in Earth's orbit on the lunar near side. The half-dozen Mass Effect spaceships found in the facility were presumably used for first-hand observation. We get a vision of this during when we go to that one planet. I don't know if that's where we find that out, but I thought that was interesting. So, all right, the non-council races. Geth armatures. Armatures are quadrupled all-terrain heavy weapons platforms, akin to the armored fighting vehicles of other races. Geth being synthetic intelligences, armatures are not crewed vehicles, but intelligent entities capable of independent decisions making and learning. Armatures are equipped with heavy kinetic barriers. Their main cannon, mounted on the articulated head turret, appears to be highly efficient, conventional mass accelerator. It is capable of firing in anti-personnel and anti-tank modes. Some armatures carry drones into battle, presumably for reconnaissance purposes. Other hosts, a swarm of insect-sized repair microbots. Hoppers. The Geth modules, collectively dubbed Hoppers by Alliance forces, are electronic warfare platforms. They can project electromagnetic radiation across a broad spectrum as an offensive weapon. They can also perform cyber warfare attacks against the onboard computers of body armor, hard suits, and weapons, adversely affecting their performance. The structure of hoppers consists of an advanced, highly elastic artificial muscle material. This allows a hopper to compress its entire body for powerful leaps. Hoppers also have thousands of molecular scale barbs on the surface of their hands and feet, which are used to cling to walls and ceilings. Hoppers are very difficult targets, leaping from one surface to another in rapid succession. The Quarians have no record of any Geth models similar to Hoppers. This new morphotype must have been developed over the last 300 years by the Geth themselves. This is troubling proof that the Geth are continuing to move towards technological singularity. Experts in synthetic life are intrigued that Hoppers appear to be even more organic than the baseline Geth. The identified subtypes of Hopper have been codenamed Sapper, Stalker, and Ghost. Krogan biology. The Krogan evolved in a lethal ecology. Over millions of years, the Grimm struggled to survive larger predators, virulent disease, and resource scarcity on their homeworld. Tuchanka turned the lizards into quintessential survivors. Perhaps the most telling indicator of Tuchanka's lethality is the Krogan eyes. Although they are predatory species by any standard definition, their eyes evolved to be wide-set, as in earth prey species like deer and cattle. Krogan eyes have a 240-degree arc of vision, better suited for spotting enemies sneaking up on them than for pursuit. Physically, the Krogan are nigh indestructible, with a tough hide impervious to any melee weapon short of a molecular blade. While they feel pain, it does not affect their ability to concentrate. They have multiple functioning examples of all major organs and can often survive the loss of one or two of any type. Rather than a nervous system, they have an electrically conductive second circulatory system. A Krogan can never be paralyzed. They may lose some of this fluid, but it can be replaced by the body in time. The hump on a Krogan's back stores water and fats that help the Krogan survive lean times. Large humps are a point of pride. Being well fed implies the Krogan is a superior predator. The most widely known biological feature of the Krogan is their incredible birth rate and rapid maturity. Once freed from the hostile cauldron of Tuchanka, the Krogan population swelled into a numberless horde. Only the genophage kept them from outbreeding the combined council races. Now the rare Krogan female capable of bringing a child to term are treated like strategic resources. Warlords would trade them at diplomacy, or, more frequently, fight wars over them. Yeah. Talking about fighting for the woman you love. Well, I don't know if I love in this case, but Krogan culture. The harsh Krogan homeworld conditioned the Krogan psychology for toughness just as it did the body. Krogan have always had a tendency to be selfish, unsympathetic, and blunt. They respect strength and self-reliance and are neither surprised nor offended by treachery. The weak and selfless do not live long. In their culture, looking out for number one is simply a matter of course. After their defeat in the rebellions, the very concept of Krogan leadership was discredited. Where a warlord could once command enough power to bring entire solar systems to heel and become overlord, these days it is rare for a single leader to have more than 1,000 warriors swear allegiances to him. Most Krogan trust and serve no one but themselves. This solitary attitude stems in part from a deep sense of fatalism and futility, a profound social effect of the genophage that caused Krogan numbers to dwindle to a relative handful. Not only are they angry that the entire galaxy seems out to get them, the Krogan are also generally pessimistic about their race's chances of survival. The surviving Krogans see no point to building for the future. There will be no future. The Krogans live with an attitude of kill, pillage, and be selfish, for tomorrow we die. Kind of reminds me of a game called it's a board game, or it's a tabletop game, but it's also based off a series of books where basically Earth is in the wake of a dying sun, and at any moment the sun will just sniff out, and basically people on Earth are now selfish and living their life as much as they can until the Earth goes out. Oh, it was written by Jack Vance. I'm trying to remember the name of the book series. No, crap. Well, just look up Jack Vance. You'll probably find the book series. They're pretty entertaining because they're more like kind of dark. Well, I don't know if I'd say dark I guess dark comedies maybe. They were written, and actually those books, a series of books, are what D&D is based off of. Interesting enough. But anyway, enough diatribing. Krogan genophage. The genophage bioweapon was created to end the Krogan rebellions. From the start, the Krogans had overwhelmed the Council. Only Ptolemy's first contact with the Turians saved the Council races. The Turians fought the Krogan to a standstill, but sheer weight of Krogan numbers indicated the war could not be won through conventional means. The Turians collaborated with the Solarians to genetically engineer a counter to the rapid breeding of the Krogan. The genophage virus gained the energy to replicate by eating key genetic sequences. Every cell in every Krogan had to be altered for the weapon to be foolproof. Otherwise, the Krogan could have used gene therapy to fix the affected tissue. Once a genophage strain could find no more genes to eat, it would starve and die, limiting spin-off mutation and contamination. This created genetic flaw is hereditary. The Solarians believed the genophage would be used as a deterrent, a position the Turians viewed as naive. Once the project was complete, the Turians mass-produced and deployed it. The Krogan homeworld, their colonies, and all occupied worlds were infected. The resulting mutation made only 1 in 1,000 Krogan pregnancies carry to term. It did not reduce fertility, but offspring viability. The rare females able to carry children to term became prizes to the Krogan warlords fought brutal battles over. The Krogan are a shadow of their former glory. While the rebellions took place centuries ago, they are constantly reminded of the horrors of the genophage, of their inability to counter it. The releases of the genophage is still controversial, bitterly debated in many circles. I don't know why this almost reminds me of what happened to the Native Americans, or I forgot. No, I guess just Native Americans, what we call them. Well, they used to be called Indians because when Columbus and others came from, they thought they had traveled to India, so they called all the people who lived in this land Indians, which, but a lot of people still call them that because of just, doing it for so long. So I say just call them Native Americans, and there you go. But I don't know what's proper really at this point. Anyway, what I was going with was it kind of reminds me of almost like when they were trying to manifest destiny all of America. One of the ways they because a lot of these tribes would stop them from going, walking over their land and taking over, which, rightfully so. They fought to keep them off or tried to be diplomatic, but they kept breaking their rule, not the rules. Their, when they would lie. Basically, all the governments, the American government would lie, or people in certain areas would lie to the tribes and to get them. But one way they took out a lot of tribes was I forgot which group it was, but they gave smallpox to, and they basically gave free rugs to certain Native American tribes. I forgot which ones, but then they actually infected them with smallpox. And since the Native Americans didn't have a resistance to it, because I think the smallpox was a European disease that at that point had been almost not completely taken out, but was it didn't affect a lot of Europeans because they had been so used to it for so long. But a lot of Native American tribes were not used to it, so they infected them with those rugs, and then it spread, and then it killed a lot of Native American tribes and people off, which is just horrendous. But it almost kind of reminds me of that, except in this game is because they were war and they could have taken over. But in history is just because they wanted to take over all the land. And yeah, it's pretty heinous, let me just tell you. But anyway, sorry for going on that. That was seemed unnecessary, but it just kind of popped in the back of my head. I had to talk about it. So, Krogan rebellions. After the Rachni War, the quick-breeding Krogan expanded at the expense of their neighbors. Warlords leveraged their veteran soldiers to siege living space while the council races were still grateful. Over centuries, the Krogan conquered world after world. There was always just one more needed. When the council finally demanded withdrawal from the Asari colony of Luzia, Krogan overlord Codex stormed off the citadel, daring the council to take their worlds back. But the council had taken precautions. The finest STG operators and Asari huntresses had been drafted into a covert observation force, the Office of Special Tactics and Reconnaissance. The Spectres opened the war with crippling strategic strikes. Krogan plans went dark as computer viruses flooded the extranet. Sabotaged antimatter refineries disappeared in blue-white annihilation. Headquarters stations shattered into orbit-clogging debris, ran by pre-placed suicide freighters. Still, this only delayed the inevitable. The war would have been lost if not for the first contact with the Turians, who responded to the Krogan threat with prompt declaration of war. Being on the far side of Krogan space from the Council, the Turians advanced rapidly into the lightly defended Krogan rear areas. The Krogan responded by dropping space stations and asteroids on Turian colonies. 3 worlds were rendered completely uninhabitable. This was precisely the wrong approach to take with the Turians. Each is first and foremost a public servant, willing to risk his life to protect his comrades. Rather than increasing public war weariness, Krogan tactics stiffened Turian resolve. The arrival of Turian task forces saved many worlds from the warlords' marauding fleets, but took development to the genophage bioweapon to end the war. There were decades of unrest afterwards. Rogue warlords and holdout groups of insurgents refused to surrender or disappeared into the frontier systems to become pirates. Kind of reminds me of what happened during World War II, when we dropped the bomb on Japan. They surrendered not too long afterwards. But there's so many islands in Japan and other areas of the Pacific, and those people didn't get messages about the surrendering. So I think it was like, I forgot how many years it was. It was like 1 or 2 years before the rest of the holdouts were told that Japan had surrendered, and they didn't know that. They were still fighting like anyone that came on those islands. So, but that was back in the day where there was not easy communication. Nowadays you could, I guess, I guess in this world. But anyway, Krogan military doctrine. Traditional Krogan tactics were built on traditional mass unit warfare. Equipped with cheap, rugged gear, troop formations were powerful but inflexible. Command and control was very centralized. Soldiers in the field who saw a target contacted the commanders behind the lines to arrange fire support. Since the genophage, the Krogan could no longer afford the casualties of old horde attacks. The Battlemasters are a match for any 10 soldiers of another species. To a Battlemaster, killing is a science. They focus on developing a clean, brute force economy of motion that exploits their brute strength to capacitate enemies with a swift single blow of overwhelming power. This charge of focus from mass unit warfare to maximum efficiency has increased employment demand in the fields of security and muscle for hire. Due to the unsavory reputation of the Krogan, most of these jobs are on the far side of the law. Battlemasters are not spit and polish, but they do believe in being well armed and equipped, preferably with a gun for each limb. They are callous and brutal, but methodical and disciplined. They use any means at their disposal to achieve their goals, no matter how reprehensible. Hostage taking and genocide are acceptable means to ensure a quiet occupation with a few Krogan casualties. The Krogan serving with Saren's forces appear to be returning to the old style of mass attritional combat. They also work in close cooperation with supporting Geth units, who fill the roles occupied by combat drones in other armies. Biotics are rare among the Krogan. Those that exist are viewed with suspicion and fear. The Krogan see this aura of fear as a useful quality for an officer, and often promote them. Combat drones and other high-tech equipment are likewise in short supply. On to the Quarians, the Romani of space, for all intents and purposes. Quarian economy. The migrant fleet is a little economical base, operating in a state of perpetual hand-to-mouth. While Quarian ships include light manufacturing and assembling plants, they lack heavy industries such as refining and shipbuilding. The fleet has tankers for water purification and oxygen cracking, but the space-intensive nature of agriculture limits food production. A single disaster could destroy the fragile balance. The Quarians earn income in creative ways. Because the government is obliged to provide food, water, air, and medical support for every individual, the Conclave strategically determines the course of the fleet to bring in resources and income. A species that suspects the migrant fleet is heading towards their space often offers a gift of surplus starships, fuels, and resources to convince the Conclave to alter course. As the fleet passes through a system, swarms of mining vessels work over asteroids for metals, siliceous materials, and cometary bodies for water, ice, and organics. Quarian miners are adept at locating and strip mining spaceborne resources. This sparks conflict with corporations already working the system. Large mining concerns spend millions on lobbyists and public relations portraying the Quarians as locusts, devouring the resources of a system before moving on. The greatest asset of the Quarians is their rarefied skills. Most are experienced miners. Due to their life of perpetual salvage and repair, they are skilled engineers and technicians. More than once, the very corporations that lobby against the Quarians have made backroom deals with the fleet, arranging for skilled Quarians to fill space engineering jobs that other species would demand higher wages for. Quarians are widely hated amongst the working classes. The Quarians are coming to take our jobs. The Quarians are coming to take our jobs! Is a common response to the fleet's approach. Wow, if this ain't like similar to like what's going on in America with people working from South America and other such, or anyone from out of country, I don't know what is. Anyway, Quarian's government. Due to the Quarians' precarious existence and the need to enforce a strict rationing, government is somewhat autocratic. The migrants' fleet's operations are directed by the Admiralty, a board of 5 military officers who are advised by a legislative body called the Conclave. Each vessel in the fleet has the right to send representatives to the Conclave aboard the flagship. The number of representatives is based on a crew size. Larger clans with bigger ships and more votes form the core political blocs. Oppositions come from the Outriders coalition, with delegates from thousands of smaller ships. The Admiralty defers to the Conclave's decisions in most circumstances. However, if all 5 members agree that a Conclave decision jeopardizes the survival of the fleet and cannot get the Conclave to address their concerns, they have the right to summarily overturn the legislative decision. After the Admiralty uses this extraordinary power, they must resign. If the Admiralty does not step down after using their veto, the rest of the military is obliged to arrest them. Each ship captain has authority over his vessel, but is advised by an elected civilian council, just as the Admiralty is advised by the Conclave. This relationship may range from cooperation to polite tolerance to outright hostility, but any captain who overrules his council without good reason is relieved of command by the Admiralty. Many Quarian ships are owned by clans who pool their resources to purchase used vessels from private sellers. Large ships are prestigious for big, rich clans, but a small ship means status for a small clan with enough personal wealth to afford a private vessel. Clan vessels captains are not subject to dismissal by the Admiralty. Abusive captives are a family problem if they do not disrupt the operations of the fleet. Quarians, Migrant Fleet. The Migrant Fleet is the largest concentration of starfaring vessels in the galaxy. Sprawling across millions of kilometers, it can take days for the entire fleet to pass through a mass relay. When the Quarians fled their homeworld, the fleet was a motley aggregation of freighters, shuttles, industrial vessels, and the odd warship. After 3 centuries, all have been modified to support larger crews as comfortably as possible. As the Quarians achieve stability, they begin to weeding out the ships least suitable for long-term habitation, selling them and pulling the money to buy larger and more space-worthy hulls. This process is ongoing as vessels wear out and break down. While some ships enjoy dedicated cabins with full privacy and sanctuary facilities, many more are former freighters whose cargo bays and containers are pressurized and divided into family spaces using simple metal cubicle bulkheads. The Quarians enliven these austere spaces with colorful quilts and tapestries which also help muffle sound. The day-to-day operations of the fleet, traffic control, station keeping, supply distribution, and so on, are under military jurisdiction. Though the ship captains have the authority to deviate from their assigned positions and may lead the fleet at any time, they are assumed to do so at their own risks. As the migrant fleet moves through the galaxy, many ships split off to pursue individual goals, returning days or years later. And pilgrimage. When Quarians of the migrant fleet reach young adulthood, they must leave their birth ship and find a new crew to accept them as permanent residents. To prove themselves, they must recover something of value. This is often their prospective captain as proof that they will not be a mere burden on the shoestring resources of the ship. This process is called the pilgrimage. Stripped of its ritual, the pilgrimage is merely an attempt to maintain genetic diversity within the small, relatively isolated population bases that make up the migrant fleet. If the young stayed and married within their birth vessel, the risk of inbreeding would increase sharply. The Quarians are surgically fitted with their various immunity booster implants in preparation for leaving on pilgrimage. Having grown up within the sterile, controlled environments of the migrant fleet ship, Quarians have virtually no natural immune system. Yeah, so if those things get punctured, they're pretty much almost doomed for the most part. I mean, even the common cold could kill them. But of course, apparently their suits are hard to find and have many redundant protections on them. But usually, Quarian warriors will die not from their gunshots, but from whatever diseases that come after them. So, anyways, Citadel. Man, that was a long one. All right, and let's see what we got left. Okay, Citadel and galactic governments. Citadel conventions. These diplomatic talks occurred in the wake of the Krogan rebellions as a response to the destruction of the conflict and an attempt to distance the Council from the brutal Krogan warfare. The conventions regulate the use of weapons of mass destruction. A WMD causes environmental alteration to a world. A bomb that produces a large crater is not considered a WMD. A bomb that causes a nuclear winter is. Use of WMD is forbidden on garden worlds like Earth, with ecospheres that can readily support a population. If a habitable world is destroyed, it will not be replaced for millions of years. The conventions do not forbid the use of WD on hostile worlds or in sealed space station environments. Many militaries continue to develop and maintain stockpiles. The conventions graded weapons of mass destruction into tiers of concern. Tier 1 is the greatest threat to galactic peace. Tier 1. Large kinetic impactors, such as asteroid drops or deorbiting space stations, effectively free and available in any system in the form of debris left over from planetary accretion. Kinetic impactors are the weapon of choice for for terrorists and third galaxy nations, kind of like during the Bringing Down the Sky storyline, similar to that. So, let's see, sorry. I got Tier 2. Uncontrolled self-replicating weapons such as nanotechnology, viral or bacterial organisms, or bacteriological organisms, von Neumann devices, and destructive computer viruses. These weapons can lie dormant for millennia, waiting for a careless visitor to carry them on to another world. Tier 3. Large energy burst weapons such as nuclear or anti-minor warheads. Tier 4. Alien species deliberately introduced to crowd out native forms necessary for the health of the ecosystem. Ecological tampering can take years to bear fruit, making it difficult to prove. Citadel Station, Citadel Security Services, CSEC. Citadel Security is a volunteer police service answering to the Citadel Council. The 200,000 constables of CSEC are responsible for maintaining public order in the densely populated Citadel. They also provide pirate suppression, customs enforcement, and search and rescue throughout the Citadel cluster. CSEC has 6 divisions. Enforcement. Uniformed officers patrol the Citadel and respond to emergencies. Investigation. Detectives who puzzle out the truth behind crimes and bring perpetrators to justice. Customs. Screen the thousands of passengers and cargo containers that pass through the Citadel ports every day. Network. Deals with cyber crimes like identity and copyright theft, hacking and viral attacks, and illegal artificial intelligence. Special Response. Deals with hostage situations, bombs, heavily armed criminals. In the unlikely event that attackers board the Citadel, they are also the front line of defense, armed with military-grade equipment. Patrol. Naval Arm. With ships stationed throughout the Citadel cluster. Unlike the other divisions, they are rarely seen at the Citadel, nor do they stay in one place long. Joining CSEC is prestigious. Applications must be sponsored by a Citadel counselor or the ambassador of an associate council race. Generally, applicants have many years of distinguished service in the military or police forces of their nation, but an inexperienced applicant with demonstrable talent will be fairly considered. CSEC inspectors are often at odds. Many CSEC members, notably current executor Venari Palin, believe that allowing inspectors to be above the law is a dangerous practice. The actions of Saren Arturius lend credence to this position. The inspectors in turn are aggravated when CSEC dedication to procedure and due process hampers their investigation. Kind of reminds me of like when movies when like the feds take over for a cop's district and stuff like that during a case or whatever. That's probably the idea behind it. Citadel Station, a proscenium ring. The ring is an enclosed loop of park-like space serving as the connection point for the wards. The interior walls are lined with the embassies of influenced species and private residences of the galaxy's elite. The proscenium is full of open air, restaurants, bars, and luxurious meeting areas. Gravity is about 1/3 Earth normal. The holographic sky is projected over the ceiling of the ring. Unlike the 24/7 bustle of the wards, the proscenium maintains a 20-hour day schedule with a 6-hour night where lights are dimmed and the sky goes through a night cycle. Offices and residences are often open to the interior. It is not unusual for embassies to have no exterior wall at all. This does not cause a crime problem due to the heavy CSEC presence and ubiquitous monitoring devices on the proscenium. These were quickly identified and apprehended. The ring is the location of the Citadel spaceports. Being closer to the center of the spin, there is less motion for a ship to match, and then the reduced spin gravity makes handling cargo easier. Hundreds of ships pass through the Citadel every day, and every species with an embassy is granted a private dock. The tower, at the center of the ring, holds the administration of the Citadel Council. The tower rises over a kilometer from the ring, appearing to thrust forward parallel to the ward arms. As the tower is at the center of the spin axis, it experiences little centrifugal force. Gravity is maintained using mass effect fields at a 90-degree angle to the ring of wards. A consular dock can be found at the base of the tower. While normally used for diplomatic couriers and inspector business, the shuttles docked here can evacuate the council government in an emergency. Citadel Station, Serpent Nebula. The Citadel is surrounded by a blue-tinted reflection nebula. The light in the nebula is actually light from the Citadel, scattered and reflected back at the station. At first, the Serpent Nebula was assumed to be made of microscopic construction debris. Prevailing theory holds that the Protheans used molecular nanotechnology to manufacture the incredibly durable materials used in the Citadel. But unlike other nebulae, the Serpent does not dissipate over time, therefore must be replenished constantly. The current popular theory is that the non-recyclable waste collected by the Citadel's keepers is somehow rendering down to the atomic or molecular level and ejected into the cloud. The thick nebula presents a navigational hazard. Beyond the relatively clear areas around the Citadel, electrical discharges are common. These are not blocked by kinetic barriers and can severely damage metal-frame starships. In addition, some dense knots of dust can overwhelm the repulsions of kinetic barriers on smaller ships. If such a vessel is moving fast enough at the time, the effects are similar to being hit by a sandblaster. Attempting to reach the Citadel through open space navigation is unadvisable. The only safe approach is through the various mass relays that orbit it. Citadel Station Statistics. Although the Citadel is equipped with mass effect generating element 0 cores, most of the gravity on the station is generated by the centrifugal force of rotation. Rotation 3.5 minutes per revolution. Rotation gravity awards 1.02 Earth. Rotational gravity and precision 0.3 Earth. Total length open 44.7 kilometers. Diameter open 12.8 kilometers. Ward length 43.6 kilometers. Ward 330 meters. Presidium ring diameter 7.2 kilometers. Presidium ring width 553 meters. Exterior arm thickness 13 meters. Population 13.2 million, not including keepers. Gross weight 7.11 billion metric tons. Height of the Presidium Tower 1,047 meters. Citadel Station, wards. The majority of the Citadel population lives in the wards, the 5 massive arbs of the station that house the residential commercial districts. Many galactic races have established cultural enclaves here. Population density and cost of living are extremely high, akin to Earth cities such as Hong Kong and Singapore. The wards are open-topped with skyscrapers rising from the superstructure. Towers are sealed against vacuum as the breathable atmosphere enveloped to only maintained to a height of about 7 meters. The atmosphere is contained by the centrifugal force of rotation in a membrane of dense colorless sulfur hexafluoride gas, held in place by carefully managed mass effect fields. The view from the wards is spectacular. In the background, stars Serpent Nebula and the nearby blue giant called the Widow move across the sky as the station rotates and stabilizes itself. In the foreground, the lights of the building and vehicles on the opposing ward arms perpetually shine. The Citadel has no real day or night. While the station keeps a standard galactic time for political functions, businesses rarely close and residents acclaim to sleep and work according to personal need rather than a day and night cycle. Additions and modifications are constantly being constructed, though they must stay within certain specifications that will not compromise the operation of the station. Occasionally the keepers will descend on an area of the wards and move or change the architecture without explanation. Residents have learned to live with these inexplicable intrusions. And finally, the Treaty of Ferrixon. Due to the destructive nature of dreadnoughts, the Council races agreed at the Ferrixon Naval Conference to fix a ratio of dreadnought construction between themselves. At the top of the pyramid is the peacekeeping Turian fleet. Below the Turians are the other Council races. Currently, the Asarian Solarians Council associate races are at the bottom. The Human Systems Alliance is part of this last group. The ratio of Turian to Council to associate dreadnoughts is 5 to 3 to 1. For every dreadnought humans are permitted to build, the Asari have 3 and the Turians 5. Humanity in the system is alliances. The alliance is the government and military of humanity beyond Sol. Genetic engineering. In the 22nd century, manipulations of the human genome became commonplace. Techniques of genetic engineering advanced to the point where the rich could custom build fetuses that grew into stronger, smarter, and more attractive adults. In more permissive regions, custom designed life forms and uplifted animals occupied an ill-defined niche between property and sapient being. Travel to planets with unique forms of life brought an unwariness that Earth's unique biodiversity could be lost if spliced and hybridized to gain useful alien qualities. The Sudheim-Wolcott Genetic Heritage Act was passed by the Systems Alliance Parliament in 2161 and imposed sharp restrictions on controversial uses of genetic engineering but provide governmental subsidies for beneficial applications. Screening and therapy. Most governments provide free assessments and corrective therapy for genetic diseases and prospective parents. This has nearly eliminated everything from cystic fibrosis to nearsightedness. The earlier screenings and therapy is performed, the more comprehensive the results. Though ideally performed on artificially fertilized zygotes in a lab, procedures are available for embryos in the womb and newborns out of respect for personal beliefs. Enhancement. Improvement of natural human abilities is legal, but adding new abilities is not. Treatment to improve strength, reflexes, mental acuity, or appearances are permitted. Adding a tail or the ability to digest cellulose is not. Some genetic enhancement is provided for free to Alliance military recruits, but the average citizen must pay for the privilege. The process can take years to reach fruition in an adult. Engineering. Artificial hybridization of genes from capable non-human species with human genetic code is illegal. Creation of a designed life is broadly legal and mainly used for terraforming medical applications, but sentient creatures are heavily regulated, and creation of sapient life is outlawed by both the Systems Alliance and the Citadel Council. We actually have something like that going on right now, where they're looking into, gene therapy and stuff like that. I don't know how far it's gotten, but there's some interesting results going on. So we might have this question in the future if it ever bears fruit to the point where it's common. Human diplomatic relations. Humanity has encountered many galactic species. Wars have been a few, and mistrust is rife. Politically, the Alliance is a peaceful trade partner of the Turians. As a practical matter, however, there's simmering antagonism and bigotry between both populations over the First Contact War of 2157. The Alliance enjoys good relations with the Asari, though many privately believe the matriarchs are aristocratic and overcautious. Though humans know better than to unconditionally trust any Solarian, their shared reckless ways make them natural allies against the conservative Turians and Asari. The Krogan have no unified government, but individually are generally treated as potential criminals, a reputation most Krogan enjoy living down to. The Alliance has no formal contact with the Quarians. Their migrant fleet has not yet passed through any human-settled systems. The Batarians are rivals for the control of the Skillian Verge. They severed their treaties with the Citadel to prosecute a colonial conflict against the Alliance. Officially there is no war, but neither is there any peace. Systems Alliance, Geological Survey. As the human race expands its territory and raises the general standard of living, demand for industrial resources continue to grow. Many planets, moons, and asteroids contain a wealth of resources, but many systems have barely been charted, let alone thoroughly surveyed. Unmanned probes are one solution, but they are often lost to space hazards and unforeseen circumstances or theft by salvagers. In recent years, the AGES, the Alliance of Geological Service, has offered bounties to private individuals or teams willing to perform mineralogical surveys on the frontiers. The survey data is made publicly available to further corporate development. Due to the cost of travel and the dangers of operating in hostile worlds, it is rarely a profitable endeavor. Light metals. Metals with low atomic weight are often used in construction of spacecraft and vehicles. Heavy metals. Metals with higher atomic weight are used to construct equipment components. The platinum group elements are particularly useful. Rare earths. Most useful minerals in this category are radioactives or magnets. Gases. Various gases are required to support all known forms of sapient life. Some are commonly used as fuel. You get this when you do when you survey all the planets and stuff over the course of the game. Systems Alliance, Military Doctrine. The Alliance's military is of a great concern to the galaxy. At first contact with the Turians, they were completely inexperienced. Turian disdain changed to respect of the relief of Shang-Chi, where the humans surprised them with novel technologies and tactics. The human devotion to understanding and adapting to modern space warfare stunned the staid council races. For hundreds of years, they have lived behind secure walls of long-proven technologies and tactics. The council regards the Alliance as a sleeping giant. Less than 3% of humans volunteer to serve in their military, a lower proportion than any other species. While competent, Alliance soldiers are neither as professionals as the Turians nor as skilled as the Asari. Their strengths lie in fire support, flexibility, and speed. The makeup for lack of numbers with sophisticated technological support, VIs, drones, artillery, electronic warfare, and emphasis on mobility and individual initiative. Their doctrine is not based on absorbing and dishing out heavy shocks like the Turians and Krogan. Rather, they bypass enemy strong points and launch deep into their rear, cutting supply lines and destroying headquarters and support units, leaving enemies to wither on the vine. On defense, the human military is a rapid reaction force that lives by Sun Tzu's maxim: he who tries to defend everything defends nothing. Garrisons are intended for scouting rather than combat, avoiding engagement to observe and report on invaders using drones. The token garrisons of human colonies make it easier for alien powers to secure them, for which the Alliance's media criticizes the military. However, the powerful fleets stationed at phase gate nexuses such as Arcturus are just a few hours or days from any colony within their spheres of responsibility. In the event of an attack, they respond with overwhelming force. Go USA, go Team Human. Systems Alliance military jargon. Ashore. When a ship's crew leaves the vessel, they are ashore. Ashore. I don't know why I was thinking. Man, I'm being done today. Through normally used regarding planets, it can be referred to boarding a space station. Away. When a ship releases the equipment tethering it to a space station or surface dock, it is away. Aye, aye. The proper way to acknowledge an order is if told to attack, the correct response is aye, aye, sir. If asked, are you proud to be a Marine, the correct response is yes, sir. ASAP. Pronounce ASAP, an acronym for as soon as possible. Belay. Stop. Cease. Bridge, the navigation center of a spacecraft where the steering is done. Captain's mast, non-judicial disciplinary proceedings by unit commanders. CIC. Combat Information Center, the command center of a spacecraft. The CIC is filled with sensor displays to make sense out of the chaos of combat. DC, Damage Control, the containment and repair of damage to a spacecraft. ECM, electronic countermeasures used to avoid enemy sensors from passive emissions masking to active jamming. EVA, extra vehicular activity, time spent in a pressure suit out of a vehicle, spacecraft, or station. Flank. The flank is the side of a military formation. Since the soldiers are facing elsewhere, an enemy that can attack on the flank can often turn it or roll it up. FNG. Freaking new guy, a derisive term for inexperienced personnel. Groundside, the surface of a planet. Helmsman, the crewman who pilots the spaceship or spacecraft. Ladder, light amplified detection and ranging, an active sensor that bounces lasers off an objective to determine its bearing and distance. Ladder has sufficient resolution that the data can be reconstructed into an image. Shore party, spacecraft crews sent ashore on official business. Silent running, an old submariner's term used aboard the Normandy to denote when stealth systems are active. SITREP, abbreviations of situation report, an evaluation of the current military situation. Spacer, someone who has spent most of their life in space. XO, Executive Officer, the second in command of the Alliance warship. The XO is responsible for administrative and personal matters. Systems Alliance, military ranks. The Alliance uses a modified version of the ranking system that has been used for hundreds of years. Soldiers are classified into rank and file enlisted personnel, experienced non-commissional officers, NCOs, and specially trained officers. The divide between naval personnel and ground forces, Marines, is small. Ground units are a specialized branch of the fleet, just as fighter squadrons are. This unity of command is opposed by the futility of fighting without control of orbit. Without the Navy, any army is pointless. The Marines, as a matter of pride, maintain some of their traditional rank titles. For example, Marines have privates and corporals instead of servicemen. In ascended order of responsibility, the ranks of the Alliance are enlisted, serviceman third class, private second class, serviceman second class, private first class, serviceman first class, corporal. NCOs, service chief, gunnery chief, operations chief. Officers, second lieutenant, first lieutenant, staff lieutenant, lieutenant commander, staff commander, captain, major, rear admiral, general, admiral, and fleet admiral. Systems Alliance, N7. The Alliance's military vocational code systems classifies the career path of all serving personnel. The MVC consists of one letter and one number. A soldier's MVC indicates proficiency, not rank. The letter notes career path. The number indicates level of experience. As indicated by service record, technical scores and commendations, all 26 letters are used in numbers from 1 to 7. N is the letter code for the Special Forces personnel. Terra Firma Party. Terra Firma is an alliance political party formed after the First Contact War. Its policy agenda is maintained on the principle that Earth must stand firm against alien influence. It covers a variety of legislation. Recent activities by Terra Firma include oppositions to a law requiring high school alien language study, a proposal to increase tariffs on alien imports, and leading a popular movement to mark the First Contact War with a public holiday. Though founded by well-meaning individuals who feared the submersion of native human cultures under a wave of alien vogue, terra firma's agenda attracts many jingoists and xenophobes. Timeline. 2069. Armstrong Outpost at Shackleton Crater becomes the first human settlement on Luna. It is formally founded on July 24th, the 100th anniversary of the first lunar landing. 2103. Lowell City in Eos Chasma becomes the first human settlement on Mars. 2137. Eldfield Ashland Energy Corporation demonstrates helium-3 fuel extraction from the atmosphere of Saturn. 2142. Construction of Gagarin Station Jump Zero begins beyond the orbit of Pluto. 2148. Prospectors discover the Prothean rune at Promethei Planum on Mars. 2149. Translation of Prothean data leads humans to the Charon mass relay. Systems alliances founded to coordinate exploration and colonization of extrasolar worlds. 2151. A shipping accident at Singapore International Spaceport exposes downwind communities to containers of dust-forming element zero. Alliances begin construction of Arcturus Station. 2152. Roughly 30% of children born in Singapore after element zero exposure suffer from cancerous growth. Systems Alliance begins settlement of Earth's first solar colony world, the planet Demeter? I think it's Demeter. 2154. Commander Shepard is born. Heck yeah! 2155. System Alliances occupies completed proportions of Arcturus Station as a headquarters. 2156. Some children in Singapore exhibit minor telekinetic abilities. 2157. Turians encounter human explorers. First Contact War. Occupation and liberation of the human colony Shang-Chi. 2158. Humans learn potential of biotics. An international effort to track element zero exposures begin. Roughly 10% of exposed children show some level of biotic abilities. 2160. System Alliance Parliament formed. 2165. Humans establish embassy in Citadel. 2170. Batarian slavers attack the Alliance colony in Mindor. 2176. Skyllian Blitz. The pirates and slavers attack Elysium, the human capital in the Skyllian Verge. 2177. Thresher Moths devour the Alliance colony on Kuz. 2178. In retaliation for the Skyllian Blitz, an Alliance fleet wipes out an army of slavers on the moon of Torfan. 2183. Current date. Oh boy. Oh, looks like we got a couple more to go. So, yeah, it's going to be a long episode. I was hoping to get this all in an hour, but I guess we'll only do the secondary the first time, and maybe another day before maybe after the game's over, I'll do the primary stuff. The Milky Way galaxy contains 200 to 400 billion stars, most with a host of planets. Stations. Arcturus Station. Arcturus Station is the gateway to Sol, a 5-kilometer diameter Stanford-Taurus-type space station at the trailing Langrade point of the gas giant Themis. Construction of Arcturus Station began in 2151 and concluded in 2162. It was integrated in 2156 and has served as the military and political headquarters of the System Alliance from the First Contact War until the present. When humanity activated the Charon mass relay in 2149, it led to Arcturus, 36 light years from Sol, Earth's sun. Arcturus is the third brightest star from Earth. It is an ancient red giant from the generation born before Sol. Its worlds are either gas giants or ice chunks. While some rocky debris exists, the metal content is 25% lower than normal. To build Arcturus Station, metallic asteroids were towed through the mass relays to the construction site. Many of these asteroids remain near the station, their mined-out areas home to transient populations. The expense of bringing construction materials into the system was acceptable due to its strategic value. With 3 primary mass relays in addition to the secondary one to Sol, Arcturus is a major communications and military checkpoint. The Alliance's first fleet is based in Arcturus, where it can guard the gates of Sol and react to incursions of the 3 connected clusters. The station also hosts the Systems Alliance Parliament and the Systems Alliance Military General Headquarters. Its permanent population is approximately 45,000. Arcturus is actually from the galactic halo, one of the clusters of 52 stars that are crashing through the disk of the galaxy. In 1 billion years, Arcturus will be sailing through the depths of extragalactic dark space. And finally, ships and vehicles. Oh yeah, I did half of these on a previous run, so alright. Space combat, planetary assaults. Planetary assaults are complicated if the target is a habitable Garan world. The attackers cannot approach the defenders straight on. The Citadel's convention prohibit the use of large kinetic impactors against habitable worlds. In a straight-on attack, any missiles plow into the planet behind the defending fleet. If the defenders position themselves between the attackers and the planets, they can fire at will while the attackers risk hitting the planet. Successful assaults on guarded worlds hinge upon up-to-date intelligence. Attackers need to determine where the enemy's defenses are so they may approach from an angle that allows them to fire with no danger of collateral damage. Note, this is not necessary for hostile worlds. Once control of orbit has been lost, defensive garrisons disperse into the wilderness. An enemy with orbital superiority can bombard surface forces with impunity. The best option for defenders is to hide and collect reconnaissance in anticipation of relief forces. Given the state of a planet, it is impractical to garrison entire conquered worlds. Fortunately, colonization efforts tend to focus on building up a dozen or fewer areas. Ground forces occupy the spaceports, industrial facilities, and major population centers. The wilderness is patrolled by unmanned aerial vehicles and satellite reconnaissance. If a defender unit is spotted, air mobile rapid deployment units and satellite artillery are used to pin down and destroy them. Starships carriers. All races provide their fleets with an organic fighter support. Cruisers fit a handful in the space between the interior pressure hulls and exterior armor. Dreadnoughts have a hangar deck within the hull. Humans who have only recently graduated from surface to space combat were the first to build ships, wielding fighters as the main armament. In fleet combat, the carriers stay clear of battle, launching fighters bearing disruptor torpedoes. Fighters are the primary striking power of the ship. If a carrier enters mass acceleration range of the enemy, things have gone very wrong. It is possible to recover and rearm fighters during combat, though most carriers seal the flight deck and try to stay out of the way. The flight deck is essentially a corridor through the armor into the heart of the vessel. A single well-placed torpedo is enough to gut a carrier. Alliance carriers are named after great leaders, artists, and intellectuals from human history. Starships, crew considerations. Cabins given each individual 10 cubic meters of space. On larger vessels, private rooms are common. As ships get smaller, the number of crews packed in a single wardroom increases. Asari prefers share spaces even on large vessels, while Krogan territorial instincts makes it impossible for them to cohabitate even on the smallest ships. On smaller vessels, hot bunking is the norm. Crew members assigned to different watches share the same bunk. When one gets off duty, he wakes up with the person on the bunk, while the crewman is on duty. The first gets his rack time. Spacecraft compartments can be isolated by tight doors in case of decompression. Cinematic vision of explosive decompression is fiction. Hold compartments either take enough damage, the occupants are killed instantly, or leak slowly enough that they were able to reach protective gear. Compartments are equipped with emergency life support apparatus, fireproof plastic bubbles with air bottles. Small when stowed, ELSA comfortably accommodate one individual inflated. Damage control procedures cut off ventilation to burning compartments. Without oxygen to consume, fire die in seconds. The compartment is repressurized afterwards for a crew's recovery. Mass effect fields create an artificial gravity A-grav plane below the decks, preventing muscle atrophy and bone loss in zero-G. Large vessels arrange their decks perpendicularly to the thrust axis. The highest decks are the bow, and the lowest at the engines. This allows A-grav to work with the initial effects of thrust. Ships that can land arrange their decks laterally, so the crew can move about while the vessel is on the ground. Warships normally turn off their A-grav systems during combat, reducing the heat generated by systems and increasing combat endurance. To provide a point of reference for navigation in zero-G, floors are painted a different color from the walls and ceilings. Actually, I think I read that crew consideration before. I just noticed it while I was doing that. But anyway, starships, cruisers. Cruisers-weight starships are the standard combat unit encountered away from large naval bases, the poor, bloody infantry of most fleets. Nimble scouting frigates have neither the punch nor the stamina to stand up to serious combat, and the mighty dreadnoughts are a strategic resource carefully hoarded and committed to the most crucial battles. Cruisers perform routine independent show-the-flag patrols and settled systems, elite flotillas of frigates in small engagements, such as pirate suppression campaigns. In major fleet engagements, cruiser squadrons support the dreadnought battle line by screening their flanks against enemies attempting to maneuver for a main gun bow shot from the vulnerable broadsides. Alliance cruisers are named after cities of Earth. Dreadnoughts. The dreadnought is the ultimate arbiter of space warfare. Millions of tons of metal, ceramic, and polymer dedicated to the projection of firepower against an enemy vessel of like ability. No sane commander would face a dreadnought with anything less than another dreadnought. A dreadnought's power lies in the length of its main gun. Dreadnoughts range from 800 meters to 1 kilometer long, with a main gun of commensurate length. An 800-meter mass accelerator is capable of accelerating over 2 kg slug to velocity, 283 kilometers every 2 seconds. Each slug has the kinetic energy of 38 kilotons of TNT, 3 times the energy released by the fission weapon that destroyed Hiroshima. When used to bombard planets, some of this kinetic energy is lost due to atmospheric re-entry friction. As a rule of thumb, each Earth's atmosphere of air pressure saps approximately 20% of a projectile's impact energy. The Turian fleet presently has 37 dreadnoughts, the Asari 21, and the Solarian 16. Humanity has 6, with an additional hull under construction at Tourist Station. Alliance battleships are named after the mountains of Earth. Everest class, Everest, Fuji, and Elbrus. Kilimanjaro class, Kilimanjaro, Taishan, Shasta, Aconcagua, under construction. Actually, I think I read this one as well, but oh well. Fighters are single-pilot combat small craft. They are lightweight enough that they can be economically fitted with powerful element zero cores, making them capable of greater accelerations and sharp maneuvers than starships. Kinetic barrier shields change starships' battles from short, vicious bloodbaths to extended, indecisive slugging matches. Only the main gun of a dreadnought can punch a max accelerator slug through the barriers of an opposing dreadnought. This changed with the development of a fighter-launched mass disruptor torpedo, a short-range weapon that can penetrate kinetic barriers to destroy their projector assemblies. Starship Guardian defenses must be overwhelmed with swarm tactics. Fighter groups can take heavy casualties, pressing their torpedo attacks home. Once fighter-launched torpedoes have crippled an enemy's barriers, the mass accelerators on frigates and cruisers can make short work of them. Interceptors are a type of fighter optimized to attack other fighters. With no ability to damage starships, interceptors are used to screen friendly units from incoming fighter attacks. Let's see. How many more do we got? Oh, we got quite a few more. Oh, man. Alright. Yeah, I'll try to finish this as fast as I can, so we won't be too long, but it is a bonus episode, so I guess I can take as long as I need to. Starship frigates. Frigates are light escort and scouting vessels. They often have extensive guardian systems to provide anti-fighter screening for capital ships and carry a squad of Marines for security and groundside duty. Unlike larger vessels, frigates are able to land on planets. Frigate drive systems allow them to achieve high FTL cruise speeds. They also have proportionally larger thrusters or lighter design mass, allowing them to maneuver more handily. In combat, speed and maneuverability make a frigate immune to the long-range fire of larger vessels. In the time it takes projectiles to reach them, frigates are no longer where they are predicted to be. In fleet combat, frigates organized into wolfpack flotillas of 4 to 6. Wolfpacks speed through enemy formations, hunting enemy vessels whose kinetic barriers have been taken down by fighter-launched disruptor torpedoes. The wolfpack circle strafes vulnerable targets using their superior speed and maneuverability to evade return fire. Alliance frigates are named for great battles in human history. Starships, heat management. Dispersion of heat generated by onboard systems is a critical issue for a ship. It cannot deal with heat the crew may be hooked within the hull. Radiation is the only way to shed heat in a vacuum. Civilian vessels utilize large, fragile reactor panels that are impossible to armor. Warships use diffuse radiator arrays, DRA, ceramic strips along the exterior of the armored hull. These make the ship appear stripped to thermographic sensors. Since the arrangement of the ship's strips depends on the internal configuration of the ship, the pattern for each vessel are unique and striking. On older ships, the DRA strips could become red or white hot. Dubbed tiger stripes or war paint by humans, the glowing DRA has a psychological impact on pirates and irregular forces. Ship radiators are not as efficient as panels, but if damaged by enemy fire, the ship only loses a small portion of its total radiation capacity. In most cases, a vessel's DRA alone allows it to cruise with no difficulties. Operations deep within the solar system can cause problems. A ship engaged in combat can produce titanic amounts of heat from maneuvering, burns, and weapons fire. When fighting in a high-heat environment, warships employ high-efficiency droplet heat sinks. In a droplet system, tanks of liquid sodium and lithium absorb heat within the ship. The liquid is vented into a spray nozzle near the bow of a thin sheet of millions of micrometer-scale droplets. The droplets are caught at the stern and recycled into the system. A droplet system can sink 10 to 100 times as much heat as a DRA strips. Droplet sheets resemble a surface ship's wake through the water. The wake peels out in sharp turns, spreading a fan of droplets as the ship changes vectors and leaves the coolant behind. Sensors, or starship sensors. Light lag prevents sensing in a real time at great distance. A ship firing its thrusters at the Charon relay can be easily detected from Earth, 5.75 light hours, 6 billion kilometers away, but Earth will only see the event 5 hours and 45 minutes after it occurs. Due to the light speed limit, defenders can't see enemies coming until they have already arrived. Because there is no FTL travel in the communications, but no FTL sensors, frigates are crucial for scouting and picket duties. Passive sensors are used for long-range detection, while active sensors obtain long-range, high-quality targeting data. Passive sensors include visual, thermographic, and radio detectors that watch and listen for objects in space. A powered ship emits a great deal of energy. The heat of the life support systems, the radiation given off by the power plants and electrical equipment, the exhaust of the thrusters. Starships stand out plainly against the near absolute zero background of space. Passive sensors can be used during FTL travel, but incoming data is significantly distorted by the effects of mass effect envelope and Doppler shift. Active sensors are radars and high-resolution LiDARs, laser detection and ranging, that emits a ping of energy and listen for return signals. LiDARs have a narrower field of view than radar, but LiDAR resolution allows images of detected objects to be assembled. Active sensors are useless when a ship is moving at FTL speeds. Vehicles, combat drones. Drones are small robots used to support and supplement organic soldiers on the battlefield. They have no artificial intelligence of any kind, but follow fixed, minimal adaptive programs. Most varieties employ massive fat levitation to improve mobility. All modern armies rely on veritable fleets of drones for routine soldiering, static garrisons, patrols, etc. The use of drones in non-critical duties keeps manpower needs down and reduces casualties in low-intensity conflicts. Less advanced races and cultures with less sensitivity to casualties have correspondingly fewer drones in their inventory. Drones are of little use in conventional open-field battles as they are poorly armed and armored. In addition to combat drones, support drones are used to assist organic units in the field. Reconnaissance drones are small stealthy craft that screen combat units in the field and warn commanders when enemies are spotted. Electromagnetic warfare drones supplement battlefield technicians, serving as mobile jammers and ELINT, electronic intelligence gathering platforms. Military and civilian police utilize dazzler drones equipped with powerful strobe lights to disorient and subdue intruders using non-lethal force. Drones formations are officially referred to as wings, i.e., deploy the 4th Assault Drone Wing on the left flank. Common soldiers often refer to friendly formations as flock and enemy formations as swarms. Weapons. Disruptor torpedoes. Disruptor torpedoes are powered projectiles with warheads that create random and unstable mass effect fields when triggered. These field warp space-time and logical areas. The rapid asymmetrical mass changes cause the target to rip itself apart. In flight, torpedoes use a massive increasingly field, making them too massive for enemy kinetic barriers to repulse. This extra mass gives torpedoes very sluggish acceleration, making them easy prey for defensive Guardian weapons, so torpedoes have to be launched at very close range. Torpedoes are the main anti-ship weapons used by fighters. They are launched from point-blank range and ripple fire waves, reminiscent of the ancient Calliope rocket artillery launchers, thus their popular nickname Callies, by saturating defensive Guardian systems with multiple targets. At least a few will get through. Weapons. Guardian. A ship's general or area defense integration anti-spacecraft network, Guardian, consists of anti-missiles, anti-fighter laser turrets on the exterior hull. Because these are under computer control, the gunnery control officer needs to do little beyond turn the system on and designate targets as hostile. Since lasers move at light speed, they cannot be dodged by anything moving at non-realistic speeds. Relativistic speeds. Unless the beam is aimed poorly, it always hits its target. In the early stages of a battle, the Guardian fire is 100% accurate, but is not 100% lethal. But it doesn't have to be. Damaged fighters must break off for repairs. Lasers are limited by diffraction. The beam spreads out, decreasing the energy density, watts per M2. The weapon can be placed on a target. Any high-powered laser is a short-range weapon. Guardian networks have another limitation, heat. Weapons-grade lasers require cooldown time, during which heat is transferred to synchro radiators. As laser fires, heat builds within them, reducing damage, range, and accuracy. Fighters attack in swarms. The first will be hit by Guardian, but as battle continues, the effective laser overheats allows the attackers to press even closer to the ship. Constant use will burn out a laser. Guardian lasers typically operate in infrared frequencies. Shorter frequencies would offer superior stopping power and range, but degradation of focal arrays and mirrors would make them expensive to maintain. And most prefer mechanical reliability over bleeding edge performance where lives are concerned. Solarians use near ultraviolet frequency lasers with 6 times the range, believing that having additional time to shoot down incoming missiles is more important. Lasers are not blocked by kinetic barriers of capital ships. However, the range of lasers limits their use to rare knife fight range ship-to-ship combat. Alright, that's it for all the secondary stuff. Now all we have left is the primary stuff, but I'll save that for another bonus episode. Maybe right before the end, or maybe after the game's over. We'll see what happens there. So for those of you who stuck around, I appreciate it. If you didn't stick around, well, obviously you're not going to watch the end of this, but but we'll see you in the next episode of Mass Effect, where we get right back to the story. And for the next episode, I'll be doing the romance stuff of the game, so which because of what indicates next. And I might talk about a little bit about what I didn't talk about on the Pinnacle Station stuff. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.